but he gonna take her ass out finally, okay? Because this man is chef's kiss. And yeah, that's basically how the book goes. Welcome to Part of My Imagination. I'm Imagination, and you're the Imagine. Welcome if this is your first time. My name is Jasmine, and welcome back if this is your second or third, or however many times you clicked on my channel. Welcome. Today, I'm going to be doing a wrap-up. And I know you're like, oh my god, Jasmine, you haven't done a wrap-up? Okay. You haven't done a wrap-up in forever. And you would be 100% right. I cannot remember the last time I did a wrap-up. But I wanted to start doing wrap-ups again because I really enjoy talking about the books that I read and letting you know all the books I'm falling in love with, because you're not knowing what books I'm falling in love with because I'm not telling you if I finish anything that I even put on my TBR. So, if you didn't know, I have a fancy journal, okay? And you guys probably seen it on my Instagram because I did post it. But I actually have a reading journal. This is what it looks like. And obviously I have for each month. So I have been updating this kind of. And yes, so I'm going to be transparent with you. It is August 28th. So this August 28th, Monday. I have 3 books left on my TBR. One book I've already started and am going to finish today, which is also a reread, so I can already tell you that I'm going to love it. And then one's a graphic novel that I already basically skimmed through and enjoyed it. And the last book is going to take me 2 days to read. So let's just get right into it. Starting off, I'm going to be talking about them in the order that I finished them this month. So let's just get started because I have a lot. Okay, so the first book that I finished was The Kingdom of Copper by S.A. Chakraborty. This is the second book in the Devabad trilogy. I loved it so much. I actually need to put my phone out because this is where I have all my stuff. Okay, so the first book that I have is Kingdom of Copper by S.A. Chakraborty. This is the second book in the Devabad trilogy, and I gave this book 5 stars. Spoiler alert, I gave the entire series 5 stars. It is one of my favorites. Now I can confidently say it is one of my favorites. This world is just so immense with magic, and the Eastern or Middle Eastern world in here is just phenomenal. You get so much rich culture in this book. You have culture from Egypt, culture from around that area as well, the Middle Eastern. You're getting some Muslim culture as well. And if there's one thing about me, if you guys haven't noticed, is I love Eastern Asian, and just Middle Eastern culture in general. You're following this main character who is living in this world. She doesn't have any family. She doesn't really know where she came from, and she has to basically make ends meet doing whatever she needs to do. So she performs these performances in basically people think that she can heal. She has these powers, not necessarily powers, but these abilities that she can't explain. She doesn't know where they come from, and she does this performance, and she ends up uttering words in a language that she doesn't know, and she ends up waking up a djinn. And this djinn is his name is Dara, and her name is Nari. And so Nari ends up waking up this djinn, and then so the djinn ends up not capturing her, but taking her because they are now being chased after these things called the Ifrit, and they want to kill her. And so he is like this 14,000-century-old djinn who she just woke up, and she has to go on this adventure with him, and he is taking her to Devabad. The reason why he's taking her to Devabad is because she is considered basically a mixed race, being human and djinn. And so he is very snobby because he believes that, the djinn should not mix with, humans and all this other stuff. But along the way, they end up forming this relationship that is very complex. And then you're following another main character named Ali, and he is basically a religious freak, okay? And he was raised in the Citadel, so he has a military background. He's supposed to be the protector of his brother. So you're following him being back integrated after being in the Citadel and learning all of these things and being very cut and dry. He's very black and white, and he wants to follow the rules and follow the way of the religion to the T. And so he is being thrown into this political thing where things are not that way. So there is a lot of political intrigue. There's a lot of magic. He is a djinn. You're following the world of where Nari and Dara are traveling to. And overall, I'm going to stop explaining because I'm giving you a lot. But the overall story is just so beautiful, and it's going to break your heart. and you're gonna love that she broke your heart. She doesn't give you what you want. Like, you want a certain thing and you know you can't have it, but you want it anyways, and just because you want it doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. The next book that I read in form is Spy Family by Taisuya Endo. This is volume number 3. I enjoyed it. I believe I gave it like 4 stars. Again, I just spoke about this in my TBR because I'm going to be reading volume number 4, so I'm not going to speak too much about it, but it's about a spy who puts together a family, and the child is a telepath, and the wife is an assassin, and none of them know. Then I read The Empire of Gold by S.A. Chakraborty. This is the last and final book. I'm not going to talk about it because I just gave you this whole beautiful spill of what the story is about. Alright, the next one that I read was Dick Fry Island. This is Rybon Ike. This is self-explanatory. This is following a island. This is following a kingdom of islands that are put together, and they're all in a kingdom. And in order to be the king of the islands, every 4 years they have a competition, and in the competition, they all are basically in this armor, and they have to fight each other. But the fighting is not like I'm gonna fight you. It's them doing attacks at each other to make each other come, and whoever comes loses, and whoever wins the competition at the end becomes the king for 4 years. It was so shocking that I just had to keep turning the pages, and I actually purchased volume number 2 because I just need to know, like, what? I would flip through this, but I'm not going to because literally on every page. Alright, the next book I have is Lakewood by Megan Giddings, and I gave this book 4 stars. 3.75 4 stars. I'm back and forth with it. And the only reason why is I feel like I wanted more horror out of this book, and I didn't get that. And it's not the book's fault, which is why I still gave it 4 stars. Because it's not the book's fault that it didn't give me what I wanted from it. Because I think my expectations were a little high on the horror side. But this book is following this girl named Lena. Her grandmother ends up dying, and her mom has a condition where she basically has seizures, and she is unable to take care of herself. She has never been able to take care of herself since she was a child, or since her daughter Lena was a child. So her and her grandmother have been taking care of her. Her grandmother ends up dying, and so she is trying to pay for college while also taking care of her mom. So she ends up getting put into this opportunity. She gets a letter in the mail for opportunity of participating in a medical trial, and all expenses will be paid for. You will get insurance, your family will get insurance, you will get a good stipend, and you will do all these things. You just have to participate in this trial. And so she goes back and forth with it, but ultimately she ends up going and doing it so that she can pay for college and take care of her mother. And so she agrees and she goes to this trial. Now the overall gist of this book is supposed to be a deep dive into how the government took advantage and continues to take advantage of poverty-stricken, mainly POC and Black people, and how they know that you have an amount of risk you're willing to take. And by that I say we all know what we're willing to accept health-wise, and how much we're allowing our health to deteriorate until we do something that is extreme. At the end, but yes, overall I really enjoyed this. I feel like everyone should read this because you're getting that perspective of how trials work, and how sometimes we tend to sacrifice things that maybe we should not, even if we're getting the best out of it. Alright, the next book that I picked up was House of Earth and Blood by Crescent City number 1 by Sarah J. Maas. I gave this book 5 stars. I loved it so much. I could not put this book down. I really could not put this book down. And the plot twist at the end, or it wasn't a plot twist, but the plot at the end, chef's kiss. Every part of this book was chef's kiss. The only thing that I did not enjoy was nothing. I enjoyed everything about this book. This book made me cry. The book made me laugh. It made me frustrated. And honestly, I loved everything about it. If you don't know what this book is about, it's following this girl named Bryce who lives in a world where there's basically all types of fantasy. There's the fae, there's werewolves, there's fairies, there's sprits, there's water creatures, there's vampires. There's literally everything in this world. And so you're following this half. That sounds terrible. That sounds like such a slur. We call her a half breed. But her mother is a human who had fell in love and basically was tricked by this fae. And so she is half fae as well. And she is best friends with basically one of the strongest Wolverines. And so her best friend and their pack end up getting brutally murdered. And so she later on is asked to solve the murder for her best friends. They think it was this one guy, but then come to find out things keep happening the same exact way. And so she gets tasked to solve the case. But she can't just solve it by herself. She has to have somebody watching over her. And so you have this angel, Hunt. Hunt is the angel who is going to be helping her on the case. And basically, he's her bodyguard. And so things are obviously going to happen. And it's basically like a mystery, but it's a fantasy mystery romance. There are a lot of things that are happening in this book, and I enjoyed everything of it. I enjoyed every little bit of it. And all I'm going to say for anyone that read this is the vacuum cleaner had me in shambles, okay? When I tell you, I audibly was like, oh. Alright, the next book I have is Brent Marie Was Here by Frederick Bachman. I gave this book 4 stars. And this is, I'm starting to realize that I just like stories about old people. This is basically following this lady who, like, she plays, not by the rules, but she just feels like everything is black and white. And she's very proper, and she's very, like, all her life she's basically been a stay-at-home wife. She doesn't have any children of her own. And her husband ends up cheating on her, so she leaves. And she goes down to this small, run-down town. She just moves, and it's like, I'm done, I'm leaving. And so she's trying to find her own way in life. But because she doesn't, I'm not going to say she doesn't have any skills, because she surely does. It takes a lot to be a stay-at-home wife. And that's what she's explaining to the unemployment office. And she's like, they're like, well, what skills do you have? Have you gone to school? She's like, what do you mean? Like, I do this, I've done this, I do all this stuff for my husband. And you're just following her journey of finding herself after all this. And also, she is helping this town. She ends up getting a job at this recreation center, essentially. And she is running this rec center, but it's a rundown rec center, so she's not really running it. And there's these random kids, like, some have parents, some don't have parents, some parents are, like, non-existent, and all this stuff. And so she is kind of helping them be their soccer coach. And it just is a great story. Like, it's just a very simple story. Like, I loved everything about it. The lessons that she's learning, but she's also teaching these kids, like, in a way. And, like, whenever she's upset, she just, like, starts cleaning everything. But so she, like, randomly goes into the store, and she just starts cleaning the store. And, like, they're like, what are you doing? And she's like, well, it's a mess in here, and I'm just cleaning. And I just loved everything about it, because she's just a strong-headed old lady. And you can't tell her nothing, but she's going to tell you all about how you're living your life wrong. Like, that's one thing that Brent Marie will do. Alright, the next book I have is Crown of Thunder by Tatiana Bucci. I gave this book, what did I give this book? 3 stars? Yeah, I gave this book 3 stars, and I kind of feel like I'm being generous. But this just did not do it for me. It dragged on so much. Beast Made of Night is the first book. And so you're following this main character who lives in this world where there are sins, and there are sin eaters, and there's mage. So the mage will call out the sin of, so basically say you have this high class or this rich person, and they did something sinful, and they want to get rid of the sin. They want to wash it out. And so the mage will call out the sin, and then they have these people who are called the sin eaters, and they will come and eat the sins. But if after you eat so many sins, you actually end up going crazy and dying. And so they have to wear the sins on their body as tattoos. So the bigger the sin, the bigger the tattoo, the bigger you're basically eating away at your lifespan, right? And so in the first book, there's a uprising, and there's a rebellion that goes on, and he was in love with the queen that basically overran them, but he didn't know what her underlying, like, agenda was, and so he ends up running away with some other soldiers and other soul eaters, or sin eaters, excuse me. And so the first book led off on an amazing start, but then this book just was not. They didn't do anything. They ran, and then once they got to where they were going, he just didn't want to do anything. He didn't want to do nothing. He didn't want to go back home. He didn't want to try to fight to fix anything. He just wanted to stay put. And I'm tired. I don't want to. But then, like, he's worried about his best friend. He's worried about his family. He's worried about all these other people that are back in this world or in the city where they're at, and he doesn't want to do anything. And he just wants to mope around, and, like, he wants to be of help, but then he doesn't really want to help. He only wants to help how he wants to help, and he doesn't want to actually do what he knows he needs to do, because he's supposed to be one of the strongest of them all. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I just did not enjoy it. And then the ending was just so thrown together and rushed. It just felt like every single fucking thing was handed to them. Like, he didn't work for it at all. He literally did not work for it in this book. And then in the end, when things were going crazy, he finally, like, the answer clicked for him, and then bam, he has this ability. And then after that, they go to try to save the rest of the kingdom now, because now he's finally going to do it after so many people have died, and he just sat here and did nothing. I had 3 stars back to back, and all of them, besides this last one that I'll tell you about, I just did not. It didn't give me what I needed to give me. And the next book is Her, and this is by Malachi Bailey. I did not enjoy this book. I love the story. I love the premise of what this story could have been. The writing just didn't do it for me. And the biggest complaint that I had about this book, so there's actually a Goodreads review that perfectly intellectually explains the issues with this book, and I 100% agree with them. So if you want to, go ahead and check out the Goodreads. And if you like it, if you like this book, kudos to you. It just was not for me, and it was mainly the writing. So this book is following this mysterious woman who is found in the ocean in Australia by this man named Cyrus. He ends up finding her. He's a fisher, and he finds her, and so she has amnesia and she doesn't know. But immediately from the point of him finding her and taking her to the hospital, she is being attacked by this magical fucking creature, and now she unlocks this magic inside herself that she doesn't know. She has amnesia, she doesn't know who she is. And so Cyrus takes it upon himself to also help her figure out who she is, especially because now he's seen the attack. And so now they're on this journey to figure out who the hell she is, but she doesn't know who she is. And she's like having these dreams and she's getting like hits and pieces, but these people are still chasing her and trying to kill her. And so he has his own dark story as well. And then it kind of combines together at the end, that they're connected in a way, but not really, because what was the point of this if that wasn't actually the person? And so it was just all very confusing because, I mean, was that supposed to be the plot twist of, you think he keeps giving you this information thinking that it's going to be this person who's the villain, but then it's not that person who is the villain, which I guess is a spoiler, so I'm sorry for that. But the biggest complaint that I had about this was just the language, okay? It was the language of how he had to over-explain who the person was constantly. So instead of just saying she, because she didn't have a name, and they never gave her a name throughout this whole book, every time they were about to make up a name for her, something happened, and then she doesn't have a name. So he just kept saying the woman of no name, or the woman with the mystical power, or the tattoo, or the woman of this or that. And it was so freaking repetitive that it became annoying. Like, it was very annoying. And then, like, instead of just saying Cyrus, he, like, overly explained, like, the mysterious fisherman, or this, or, like, other ways instead of just saying Cyrus. And then they meet this other character, this Asian girl, who is supposed to be connected to her as well. And it's like, oh my god, what is that one book that everyone was talking about with the rainbow hair? Like, that's kind of like what it was for her. It was like, oh, the girl with the punk bohawk and the book reader and the lover and the really weird blah, blah, blah. And it was like, oh my god, just say her name. Just say her name. I don't need you to keep being descriptive. I already have a description of who this character was when we first introduced her. You don't need to reintroduce her every single time you talk about her. And that was the issue that I had with this book. And it just... Alright, this last book, also, I went from having 5-star reads, 5 and 4-star reads, to just going, I almost got put in a reading slump. And then I read this book, which I also gave 3 stars, but it wasn't a bad 3-star. This was actually a good 3-star, and that is She is a Haunting by Fan Tran, excuse me. This book is following a girl named, what is her name? Jade. It's following a girl named Jade, who essentially gets asked to spend a summer vacation with her dad, who says that if she can spend the 5 weeks with him, he will give her money to pay for her tuition, because her mom does not have the money to take care of her siblings, her older brother, or her brother and sister, and herself. And so she can't also help paying for college. So in this story, you essentially have her spending time in this house. And this house is like this old home in Vietnam where it has some very unfortunate history. It is a family home of her father's generation of family, who were basically slaves in this house, or they were the help in the house for this family that was, I believe, French. I'm pretty sure it was the French. And basically, they're trying to bring this house and make it a bed and breakfast. Essentially, they're trying to make it into a hotel based on the theme of the French side of it. And so she has to build a website for this house for the father. That's another one of the perks of what she has to do to get this money. And so her and younger sister end up going, and the younger sister doesn't really understand because she's young. And so she's actually trying to build a relationship with the father, where Jade's not. She's like, I don't want anything to do with that. I'm just here for the money, and that's it. But some freaky ass shit keeps happening in this fucking house. And let me tell you, the whole gist of the story is that now that the house is haunted, she is going to try to haunt the house. And in doing so, some other things end up happening, and she ends up diving into the history of the house and the ghosts that are haunting this house, and she's finding out some very uncomfortable history. And this book was another look on what happened when the French colonized everything, okay? And it was very unfortunate, but it was just another look on also POC, mainly Vietnam, because she's Vietnamese. You're getting this perspective of, she can speak some Vietnamese, but she's also American, so she knows English, and she's finding that identity of being Vietnamese enough, but also being American enough. And so you get that perspective, as well as her also learning the background of what happened to her family while also serving in this house. And overall, it was 3 stars. The ending was whatever it was. Kind of crazy, but it didn't give me the ending that I wanted, but that's mainly just because of how I wanted the relationship to pan out, and it just didn't pan out. But overall, the story I enjoyed, and I really enjoyed the climax and the build-up. So I would recommend this book. The next one I read was Saga, and this is volume 10. This is by Fiona Staples and Brian K. Vaughan. This is volume number 10. So, but if you don't know what Saga is about, it's following this world where there are different types of species. You've got a man that's a television as a head. There are wings. There's wings and horns, and then there's like other creatures of all types. Clearly, this is like a koala man. You know what I'm saying? So there's all different types of creatures, but the main premise is that their wings and the horns have been at war for hundreds of years. And you have her, who is female, the mom. Her name's Elena. She basically was a guard. They both were in the military, the male and the female. So she was in the military for the wings. She's a wing, and she was supposed to be keeping captive or watch on Marco, who was horns. And she ends up reading this book, and it was like he ends up reading this book, and he ends up giving it to her, and she reads it, and it changes her whole perspective. And so they break out, and they end up falling in love, and they did the most forbidden thing ever, and that was have a baby. So now the entire series is just them on the run to try to protect their child. And I actually enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. It wasn't bad. It was a good pickup of where it was going. So now I'm just kind of curious to see what else it's going to get into. Also, and before I put this down, this is explicit. You might open this bitch up and see a titty. Alright, the next book that I picked up was Classroom or Assassination Classroom, volume number 5 by Yoshimatsu. I gave this book 5 stars. I gave this manga 5 stars. And it's hard to see because it literally is just a white screen. But yeah. Again, alien, take over the world, teach her this classroom, teaching classroom how to kill himself. They have a year to do it. It's just getting closer and closer. I think right now we're about a quarter of the way into the year. And they're getting better. They're getting stronger. They're unlocking some things about themselves, and it's overall just a wholesome story. And I know this manga is going to break my heart. This story is going to break my heart when we get to the end because I kind of was spoiled for it. If I think, and I think I know some things too about it that I'm just like I'm ready for it. So that's what I'm chipping away at. All right, the next book that I don't know what y'all were talking about and whatever. I read Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarls, and I gave this book 5 stars. I'm with all the girlies. I'm with everybody that gave this book 5 stars or enjoyed it for that matter. Because I'm genuinely curious on what y'all had a problem with this book. Like, I damn near want to have a sit down with people that didn't enjoy this book, and I need you to explain to me why you didn't enjoy it. And I was going to chop it up to I am an easy pleaser. I'm easily pleased by books. That's why a lot of books are 5 stars for me. That's why I'm not saying when I give a book 3 stars, well, not 3 stars, because I give plenty of books 3 stars, and because they were 3 stars, and I really enjoyed them, but they're not my favorite. They didn't make me cry or clap and love everything about it. So they're stars. So 3 stars is not a bad book for me. But when I say that I don't enjoy things, that's saying a lot because I enjoy a lot. I read to enjoy. I read to have the time. I'm not here critically. Well, that's not true because obviously I just critically talked about these 3 star books that I just gave. But I'm not overly critical. Like, yeah, you have a few grammar errors or whatever. Like, I'm overlooking that because you know your girl can't grammar anyways. Like, who am I to judge? But I'm just trying to figure out what the problem was because if there's anything about this book, this is the slowest burn hate to or love to hate or hate to love. It was done perfectly. And secondly, y'all put some respect on Rebecca Yarros' name because she's been a romance author. This is her first fantasy novel. Okay? So what y'all not gonna do is act like she can't write romance because she surely the fuck can because she's been writing romance. I ain't read none of them, but let's give credit where credit is due. I'm just curious. I'm curious on what you guys don't like about this book. It has dragons. It has magic. It has challenges. It has love to hate. What did you guys not enjoy about this book? Is it because you just don't want to like books that people hype up because they like it and you just want to say that you didn't like these hype books? Because I'm looking at your faves on your shelf and I'm trying to understand how this was not enjoyable, but I'm looking at your faves. And that's just it. I'm going to end my rant. But just know that I see. Just know that I see. And that's the problem. And I think that's the only issue that I have with other. Read and rate what you want to rate, how you want to rate it. But I'm just genuinely trying to understand. Because like I just said, I'm looking at your fave shelves. And I'm confusion. I'm very confusion. But I'm going to leave it there. If you don't know what this story is about, it is following this girl named Violet, who basically has a disease where she's extremely fragile. She's more prone to accidents, breaking bones, and getting sick. And all she wants to do is be a scribe. Okay, she just wants to live her best life around her books. Okay, she wants to be a scribe. Well, her mama was like, I'm a dragon rider. Your sister's a dragon rider. Your brother was a dragon rider. You know what you're going to be? A dragon rider. I don't care if your daddy was a scribe. I love him, but he's not here no more. You're going to be a dragon rider. And so she has to go be a dragon rider. So basically, this world where you can have scribes, you can have the infantry, you can have the medical, and you have the dragon riders. Dragon riders are basically the elite of elite. And so they go to this college and they choose which train they want or field they want to go down. And so for the dragon riders, you might not survive. You might not even make it across the damn bridge to make it into the goddamn class. And so she obviously, if she didn't make it, this book wouldn't be made. But so she ends up making it, but she has so many challenges. Not only is her mom the general of the military, so now she has this target on her back. She also has this target on her back because they believe if you're weak, you're going to make the entire group weak. And so people are trying to take her out. And there's one person who is Zayden. Okay, that man is not playing. He's saying, Violet, I'm on your ass. I am on your ass, bro. And if I get a chance, I'm finna take your ass out. Okay? But he gonna take her ass out finally, okay? Because this man is chef's kiss. And yeah, that's basically how the book goes. I love this book so much. This book gave me everything I ever fucking needed. And Iron Flame, I'm ready for you. Because that plot twist at the end, okay? The plot twist was everything I ever needed it to be, okay? Because how dare you? What? That's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna move on. I had to clean the palette after that one, okay? When I tell you I was in such a book high, when I finished that. But the next book that I picked up was Stitch and the Samurai by Hiroto Wada. It is volume number 1. And this is just a cute little story about Stitch. He basically in like his ship ends up crashing in the middle of like samurai times, you know? And so like he crashes and then this like badass fucking samurai general is like in the middle of this battle, like, yeah, we're gonna fucking kill them, blah 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 blah. And then like this happens and his rocket crashes and then Stitch comes out and the general like internally is like, oh my god, it's the cutest thing ever because Stitch is so goddamn cute. And so yeah, he's just like spending all his time trying to like do stuff for Stitch, and it is so freaking adorable. And this is just like a little cozy, like if you love Stitch, it's just a cute little story to also just love Stitch. Like, look how adorable, okay? Like, look how adorable. I love Stitch. If you didn't know anything about me, clearly, I love Stitch. Alright, so the next 3 books are the books that I know I'm going to read. So I'm going to give you guys, there'll be like an added clip because today's the day that I have to record, even though I'm not finished reading. But I'm going to talk about these books anyways. So The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson. This is actually a reread for me. It's on my reread for 23, blah, blah, blah. And I gave this book 5 stars. I'm actually in the middle of it already. So I'm still currently reading this book right now. Alright, the next book that I actually have already finished, I don't know why I didn't put this first, is Something is Killing the Children. This is volume 2. You're just following Elika Slaughter trying to solve this specific killing in this city. I have successfully read 16 books. I read 16 books. Oh my god, my books are falling. This is all that I have for you guys today. Be sure to check out my description where you can find easy ways to contact me, as well as all the books that I talked about and videos. If you like this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if not, just imagine I didn't come back again. Until next time, keep imagining.